Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to the Insurance Sucks podcast. Yeah, we know it sucks, but you have to buy it, and you probably don't have the smarts to figure out what you need or where to find it. That's why you should listen to Eric and Daryl, brought to you by QuoteSavage.com.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Insurance Sucks here on the Helium Radio Network. I'm your host, Eric Remmel, joined by
Daryl Stidham.
And today we're talking all about claims. But before we get into claims, I'd like to thank our sponsor, iInsure. Daryl, tell us a little bit more about iInsure and who they are and what they do.
Yeah, so iInsure is a full-service insurance agency. They're brokerage, basically, specializing in property and casualty, so auto, home, commercial, all that good stuff. And they are the modern agency built for the modern era.
Can they save us money?
Of course.
That's always a perk, right?
Of course. It's always a perk. Always a perk, but never a goal. Always a perk, but never a goal.
Yep. I love them. They insure, they do my personal, they do my business, they do my family. I mean, I have nothing but rave, wonderful things to say about iInsure. Highly recommend them. Check them out. iInsurenow.com. The letter I, insure.com, not like the body part I. Daryl, what's their phone number?
That'd be 813-600-5900.
Awesome. Well, today we're talking about claims, auto, insurance, home, all that kind of fun stuff. And Daryl, I know you have a lot of insight in this realm. This is kind of your bread and butter and your expertise.
Oh yeah, claims. It's why I get paid the small amount of dollars I do.
And why insurance sucks, right?
That's exactly why insurance sucks. No one cares about insurance until they have a claim, and then they want to know why things are the way they are.
Exactly. So where do you want to start today? You want to start talking about auto?
Oh, let's talk about auto. I think that's the most common claim for everybody, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're in Florida here, and that's a high claim state.
It is. Which is amazing because I always figured people up north, in the snow and ice, they would have more claims. But down here, I guess people get distracted by our beautiful beaches and alligators. So,
well, texting and driving and all that kind of fun stuff too.
Oh yeah. Well, I almost got into an accident this morning on the way to the studio because of someone texting and driving. So, yeah, seen it, done it. I was rear-ended 5 years ago by someone that was texting and driving.
Wow.
So it's definitely a problem. But when we get to the claims process, let's say you're in an accident, right? Everybody's like, what do you do? Well, first of all, make sure everyone's okay, right? That's the biggest thing. The second thing is if police need to be called, make sure you call police, get a police report. After that, start taking pictures, get the other driver's insurance information. Okay. All those are incredibly important things to do because the adjuster will not be at the scene of the crash. And so that all they have to go by are the police report and pictures. And then last but not least, call your insurance agent. Make sure you have the coverage you thought you had. You'd be surprised at how many people will call and say, hey, I just got in an accident. What am I covered for? And truthfully, they're driving a 15-year-old vehicle and they don't have collision coverage because it's a 15-year-old vehicle. And some people don't know that.
So you don't want to get that phone call when you're after you're involved in an accident with surprise, you don't have any coverage.
Exactly. And really the collision only comes in play if you're the, at fault driver. So if you hit someone else, that's when your collision comes into play. If you don't, the other driver's property damage liability would be what will repair your vehicle, assuming they have enough.
No, absolutely. And I think it's great. Those are great tips. Back when I started driving eons ago, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have digital cameras on us. There wasn't even cameras in phones yet. So I was always told in your glove box, keep a copy of your insurance card and your registration, which most people don't do. They keep it on their phones now. Also keep a pad of paper so you can take notes, with a pen in case you have to write down something you remembered so you don't forget it. Or write down the driver's information or a license plate if you're unfortunate enough that they leave the scene. You need to have something quick that you can write down their information from. as well as, like you said, taking pictures and documenting the scene of the accident. I specifically remember I was 17 years old, involved in a car accident, and somebody ran a stop sign and spun my car. And it looked like, by the way that the car had actually stopped, that I was the one at fault because I had done a 360 and ended up in oncoming traffic. And if it hadn't have been for a witness behind me to actually get out of his car and speak to the police officer, he was an off-duty firefighter. He's like, no. That guy was abiding the law. That guy ran a stop sign and hit him and threw his car over here. So if it hadn't been for that eyewitness, I would have probably been found at fault for the accident because the other party left and went to the emergency room because they were more injured. So I always, in my mind, it's always very important to keep tabs of any witnesses or bystanders, or anyone that gives information or statements, especially if the police don't show up.
Right. And that's exactly, everything is absolutely true. People in Florida, especially, we have, a no fault law, right? So people think that they don't actually assign fault in accidents. Well, that's not true. The no fault law applies to a certain coverage on your auto policy. But there's still an at fault driver. Now, can it be 51% to 49%? Absolutely. And you see that more often than not, believe it or not. But you'll still see that completely at fault, not at fault at all, 75-25. Like, people also realize they assign percentages to the fault in accidents. And it's not necessarily the police, it's the insurance companies. Because they'll go back and look, and that's how they negotiate settlements and things like that. There's an insurance term called subrogation, where, let's say, Eric, you hit me, but I stopped short. And so what's going to happen is, if I want to get my car repaired faster than the insurance process is going to take, then I will go ahead and pay my deductible, get my car repaired. My insurance company will sue your insurance company to get the money back for the repairs and the deductible, and they'll reimburse me the deductible check.
Which is always nice.
Always nice. Always nice. Sucks for you. Sucks for your insurance company. But for me, it works out great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the first step with the claim process, then, like you said, is documenting everything, making sure you have a clear record. And I know in Florida here, and it might not be similar in other states, but I know unless there's bodily harm or bodily injury or the vehicle's immovable, for the most part, the police don't show up anymore. You call into their hotline, they do a report over the phone, and then you get emailed a report or mailed a report.
Right. Or you have to order it from the sheriff's department, which is just a different hassle. Right. But yeah, they don't, unless there's an injury anymore, they usually don't show up. It's just not part of their prerogative anymore.
So it's key, obviously, in that situation, if you don't have law enforcement showing up to support you or to document it, you have to take, those pictures, those videos, write down information, because you have to give all that to your insurance carrier, because it could mean the matter of you paying for a claim or another party paying for the claim. Right. So if we're just involved in an accident, you and I just hit each other, boom, we've documented the accident. What's the next step? What do I do now?
So you document the accident, you call your insurance agent or your carrier, typically anymore, just so everybody knows, they've taken that claims process out of the agent's hands. But it's still important to call your agent, because you may not be aware of a deductible or coverage, and they can kind of advise you on what to do. Now, I will tell you this as well. I'm never going to tell you not to file a claim. What I'm going to tell you is, well, if it's just a scratch on the bumper, you have a $500 deductible, it may not cost that much to repair. Is it worth having a claim on your record to recover maybe $100 or less to get that fixed, or would you rather pay out of pocket?
Right. In most cases, it makes more sense to pay out of pocket if it's something that minor.
Right. If it's something that minor, pay out of pocket. I can't tell you don't file the claim, because it's ultimately your decision. But I can tell you having a claim on your record is going to cost you more in the long run than just paying out of pocket. So that's kind of the importance of an independent insurance agent, right? We can advise you on kind of how to proceed after a loss. The other thing too, if there's severe damage to your vehicle, and let's say the insurance carrier decides they want to total it out, you have a couple options. You can choose to buy the car back on a salvage title, but that can impact future insurance. Or you can take the settlement check. And people will always get upset because they think the car is worth more than what the insurance wants to pay out.
It's always a matter of perception, right?
Always a matter of perception. And what I can tell you is they go by the median price of the Kelley Blue Book 99.9% of the time. So you're not going to get the most, you're not going to get the least, you're going to get somewhere in the middle, and it's going to be based on mileage, model year, options, what the condition of the car was before the accident. So
would you say it's impertinent then, or important to take a picture of your car and keep one on file before you're involved in an accident?
No, not at all. But just be aware that your sentimental value attached to that car does not warrant a higher payout.
Makes sense.
Right. Some people love their cars. I am not one of them. But some people love their cars and they don't realize that, oh, by the way, it's not worth $10,000, it's only worth $5,000. Or my favorites, because this used to be me back when I was in high school, I had a 95 Honda Civic that was worth, I don't know, $2,000 stock, but it had $9,000 worth of extra equipment on it between engine enhancements, audio visual stuff, and maybe a couple bottles of NOS.
Is that covered or no?
It is if you have it on your policy. Every auto policy has basically added equipment, extra equipment, special features coverage. And if you don't have that, especially you Jeep drivers out there in the world, if you don't have all of your accessories covered, you're not going to get paid for those. You're just going to get paid for the vehicle. So
that's why it's so important then to have that conversation with someone like yourself, like an agent, because you'll need to cover that. If you have a souped up street race car, it sounds like you did in high school, hey, I've got all these enhancements to my engine and I got a system in it and I've got TVs and all this stuff. Then you have to pay for those, and to insure them, to make sure they're covered.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if you have your car set up like a rap star in the early 2000s, you need to have extra coverage, right?
Makes sense.
If you want to be like Nelly, insure like Nelly. Am I dating myself a little bit? I don't know. But yeah, it's super important. And I see all the time I've talked to Jeep owners and they're like, I paid $40,000 for my Jeep and I put $80,000 worth of stuff on it. I'm like, well, is the $8,000 worth of stuff insured? They go, what do you mean? I'm like, did you tell your agent or the 800 call center person that you have $80,000 worth of accessories on that Jeep? They go, well, no. I'm like, well, then that's not covered.
Wow. That would be a very unhappy conversation if you were to ever get into an accident and none of that stuff was insured.
Right. I mean, that's not pocket change. That's serious money that they've dumped into the car, and in the event of an accident, what do? Nothing. It's a loss.
So really, document, call your agent, like you said, or if you don't have an agent, call the toll-free number, report the claim. What's the next step after you report it?
Report it. Make sure you're available for the adjuster, and please keep in mind that when you have the adjuster, they may not always answer the phone. In fact, I guarantee they won't answer the phone when you call, but they will call you back. And the more you call them, the more you try to blow them up, they're people, the less likely they're going to, respond to you in a timely manner, because they are so busy, because claims is not a profit center for the carriers. It's actually the loss center of the carriers. So they're understaffed, they're overworked. So it's very important to remember that during that process, call your agent, let the agent reach out to the claims adjuster. We can handle it the right way. We can talk to them in their language and on the insurance language and go from there. And then basically you're either getting your car repaired or you're waiting for a check, one of the two. This is assuming no injuries. I'm just talking about physical damage here. Injuries, totally different story. Make sure you get checked out by the doctor. If you need to, hire an attorney. I'm not one of those agents that don't hire an attorney. If you feel like you have to, go ahead and get one. I know several, but you want to do all of those things. And last but not least, make sure that you do what the insurance carrier asks. If they ask for pictures, get pictures. If they ask for information on the vehicle, get information on the vehicle. The other last important thing, this is where I was going initially, you always have an option of repair shops. Do not feel like you have to go where the insurance adjuster is telling you to go. You always have the option.
Absolutely. Well, we're up in our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll get more about repair shops. I want to talk a little bit about attorneys and if you should ever get an attorney involved when you're involved in an accident and the claims process, and answer any questions people might have. You're tuned into Insurance Sucks, brought to you by iInsure, and we'll be back after this short break.
Hey, Eric Remmel here, producer of the Feel Better, Move Better, Be Better podcast, and I'm here today to tell you about the amazing folks at Peaceful Warriors Wellness Center. Not only am I a producer of the show, but I'm also a client. Their staff of therapists are truly the best at what they do. Now is your chance to check them out for yourself. Go to their website, peacefulwarriorswellness.com, and click Book Now, or give them a call at 727-822-8866. Use the promo code RADIO and get $15 off your first visit. Yes, you heard me right. $15 off your first visit. Now, this is just for a limited time, and make sure to tell them that you heard about it on heliumradio.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Insurance Sucks here on the Helium Radio Network. Today's topic is claims. We're talking about auto claims, home claims, all types of different types of claims. If you have any questions, you can always follow out after the podcast, or you can reach out to iInsure directly. Info@iInsure now, or should they email you directly, Daryl? What's the best email?
You can always email service@iinsurenow.com or email me directly. It's Daryl, DARRYL @iinsurenow.com. I sit with my inbox open pretty much all day, every day. So if you email me, you'll probably get a response back within 5 minutes at the most.
Awesome. Well, before the break, we were talking about auto claims and what your steps are to filing the claim and the processes. And before we broke, we were talking about, repair shops that you always, regardless of what the adjusters say, you always have your choice of repair shops.
Right. Yeah. And that's always good to keep in mind. I always recommend trying to get a couple estimates, see where it is as far as things go, but you always have the option for repair shops. So if you have a guy that you like, a shop that you like, they've done work for you before, go there.
I've always told, like in most things in life, I was always told growing up, you get 3 to 5, invoices or estimates for any type of product or service you're looking for, and then kind of pick the one in the middle that you're comfortable with if you don't have a preferred vendor. Still kind of that same philosophy when it comes to car repair?
Yeah, that would be a little time consuming as far as the whole claims timeline goes. I would kind of limit it to 2 or 3 at most. The benefit of, I will tell you this, the benefit of going with a shop that the adjuster recommends, that's because they have contracted prices with that shop and the carrier, so they know what they're going to pay for what repairs. And typically that work will be guaranteed if you have the right carrier. And you can always, some carriers will offer OEM parts. So you won't get the third party parts for your GM. You'll actually get, GM parts, the original manufacturer parts as well. So always something to consider, if you like your car, you want to stay as original and with manufacturer parts, always good to make sure that you have that right company as well. For example, I don't think the company with the Lizard does OEM parts.
So that's an interesting question. It's something I just thought of. How long do they insure or cover those parts? So let's just say I get into a car accident, my car gets repaired 6 months later, a year later, whatever part, let's just call it an alternator. The alternator gets replaced. 6 months later, I'm having problems. It's faulty. Do I have any kind of warranty from my insurance carrier?
Well, that was repaired by the claim, right? And that
it was repaired by the claim.
So it wouldn't fall necessarily under the insurance carrier. It would fall on the body shop. But part of that process is you went there because the carrier said go here. So the carrier's saying we're going to make sure that everything's right and good. So typically it's going to fall on the warranty of the body shop or the parts manufacturer.
Got it. So would you have to go back to that original person that did it and try to get a warranty through them?
Yes. But the good thing is, if you do that, the impetus is on the body shop to make sure it's fixed and done correctly, because they don't want to lose that contract from the auto insurance carrier, right? So
it's always a safe bet, to use who they recommend, because it's going to be in their best interest to give you premium service.
Exactly. So, you always have a choice, but there are certain benefits to going with that body shop the insurance carrier recommends.
Makes sense. So Is there anything that you'd seen or you'd recommend in your experience when it comes to the whole claims process? Like, do you have any tips or anything that you would recommend just from your personal experience?
Be honest. Be honest.
That's a good one.
Insurance agents, adjusters, companies, we get lied to on the daily. And it can always come back to bite you. So be honest on the application when you're talking to the agent to get the policy. Be honest if you have changed anything on your car. Be honest when you're in an accident about what happened. Be honest every step of the way. Because if you're not, and it's serious enough, because they're not going to pursue everything, but if it's serious enough, they can pursue fraud charges on you. It might not get repaired the correct way. You might delay the process in the claims setting. So the biggest tip is just to be honest and don't hide anything, because we're going to find out.
Oh, 100%. I mean, for most of the interactions you have with your insurance carrier, the calls are recorded anyway.
Calls are recorded. You would be surprised the amount of research an underwriter will do, or an adjuster will do, or an agent will do if something doesn't smell right. And I can tell you the best detectives I've ever met that didn't wear a badge are insurance people.
100%.
We always find out.
I did a brief stint as an adjuster in college, and for about a year, personal injury claims. I won't mention the insurance carrier, but I had some fun, interesting conversations into regards to things like trees falling on the same car multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still remember this vividly. One guy, I think he was in Illinois, had parked in his front yard, and roughly within, I think it was a 2-year span, he had 3 trees fall and total his car.
Right.
And I'm like, in the same driveway, in the same yard, the same person, the same driver. That doesn't happen. Like, it's
the same tree. Same tree limb. Like that's weird.
Exactly. So I mean, there's always funny stories out there that are like that.
Oh yeah, it's always bad. The other thing that happens, and this happens more frequently than you would like to think. I'll get a call, and someone's like, "Hey, can I add collision coverage to my policy?" I'm like, "Well, of course you can." Quick question though, why do you want to add it now mid policy? Well, I got into an accident yesterday. Cool, I can't do that. That's fraud.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you can't add coverage after the fact. I think people need to understand that if you don't have comprehensive coverage on your policy, you can't get your windshield repaired for free after the fact. Right? So it's always important to have those coverages in place before something happens.
Well, and in most cases, you're talking, I mean, about something nominal. In most cases, insurance coverages, I mean, unless you're paying for full coverage insurance with high limits and no deductible, adding or removing policies isn't a lot of money a month, at least in my experience.
Not typically, no. My favorite is someone's like, I want $1,000 deductible. I'm like, well, the difference between $1,000 deductible and a $500 deductible is $6 to $10 a month, right?
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, is nothing. I mean, you pay your deductible year by your premium. So it's like, do you want to pay it all at once, or do you want to pay it monthly?
Exactly. So, when it comes to deductibles, unless you can afford $1,000 or $2,000 deductible, go low. You're not saving that much money on the policy. You'll be better off anyway. Just good advice. And don't ever get a PIP deductible ever. If you're in a no fault state like Florida, I think there's like 2 of us left now. Don't ever get a PIP deductible. It's a waste. It saves you $7 over 6 months. It's just useless.
So, one of the things we didn't touch on when it comes to auto accident claims is we've talked about vehicle repair. What about medical? Like, what happens if you get into that car accident and you're injured? Does that part of the claims process different, or is it all kind of intertwined?
Way different. It's so different that honestly, the agents we're kind of left in the dark on that. Because it goes through, there's a PIP adjuster, there's a MedPay adjuster, there's a bodily injury adjuster, liability adjuster, there's an uninsured motorist liability adjuster. So every segment of that stuff has their own adjusters. They go through, they review medical documents, they're talking to doctors that in some cases, if you are trying to fake an injury, and they kind of think you're faking an injury, it's not unheard of for insurance carriers to send out a PI to follow you and see what you're doing.
So in a past life, I worked in healthcare, and I owned a medical facility that we treated a lot of personal injury claims, workers' comp, auto, general liability, all kinds of things. And it was very common for private investigators to come into our location and follow patients, sitting in the lobby, sitting in the parking lot. A lot of our clients, because let me tell you, when you talk about don't lie to your adjuster and be honest, don't lie to your doctor. They know they're going to do a physical examination on you and find no injury or find very little injury. And they're going to communicate that to the insurance company, to your attorney, to all the other people that we have to talk to. So be honest with your physician. But I can tell you, many of people that we thought were faking, that we in turn, shared with the insurance carrier or whoever we spoke with, quite often would get caught by their social media accounts.
Oh yeah.
So not only would they would be a private investigator following you, but you go to your sister's wedding and you're doing the limbo, while you're on the dance floor, and everybody takes a picture and tags you and puts it on Facebook. Well, guess what? The insurance company has Facebook too.
Yeah, and they use it. I don't think people realize that underwriters are on Facebook as much as they are, but that's how they check things a lot of the time. So again, just the number one tip: do not lie to your insurance carrier when it comes to a claim. Just don't. You're going to be found out.
100%. And the biggest piece of advice I can give from the opposite side of that, coming from the medical background, don't ever discount an injury. Because a lot of times if you're involved, and we used to use this analogy in the practice, think about dropping an egg carton. When you drop a carton of eggs from your fridge to the floor, what happens to the carton? Very little. What happens to all the eggs inside? They're all cracked and they're broken. Same concept with a car. If you get into a car accident, you may not have a lot of damage to the vehicle, but you could have whiplash or any number of low impact injuries that you need to get checked out. So don't be a tough guy and be like, no, I'm fine. Go to the doctor, get evaluated, make sure there's no injury. Because a lot of times those injuries take time to show up, weeks, months, years.
Yeah. And the soft tissue injuries, they're always bad. And that's when you want to get an attorney involved. If you lose a leg or an arm, it's obvious that you've been injured. And so getting an attorney may not be necessary. But those soft tissue injuries, there's just so much fraud surrounding them that unfortunately getting an attorney is usually the only remedy.
Yep.
So at that point, that's when I would step in and say, go get that attorney.
100%. And it's the insurance company's job to protect their investment and their assets. So they're going to pay you as low as possible. Right. And I can tell you in experience, it's not unlikely for them to offer fractions or pennies on something that deserves a higher, reimbursement.
Oh yeah. Between fraud and everything else, they have to. And please, everybody, please keep in mind these insurance carriers, they are for-profit companies, and so they try to get away with paying up as little bit as possible. And in some cases, it's cut and dry. You lose an arm, it's going to be $100,000 minimum. We know that. You have, soft tissue damage in your back. That's harder to prove. Does it actually affect your life? Things like that. So that's when you go get that attorney.
Yep, 100%. So we're out of time for today, Daryl. So I mean, this is a great topic. We didn't even get to homeowners. We only talked about
do that next time.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next time and share about all the tips and tricks about homeowners claims. But again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, iInsure. You can check out their website, iinsurenow.com. The letter I, not the word, not the body part I. And if you want to reach out to Daryl directly, Daryl, what's your contact info again?
Let's see. That would be my phone number, 813-600-5900. Or my email, daryl@iinsurenow.com, DARRYL. That's the correct way to spell Daryl, by the way, for all those listening out there in the world.
And I heard you got some cool new quoting tools on your website that help you actually get a price and upload your documents, do all kinds of fun stuff right on your website.
Yeah, man, you can get actual quotes on my website. You can upload your policy documents onto the website so we know exactly what we're looking at. And the best part is, for anybody out there that's filled out a form online to get a quote and then they get like 10,000 phone calls, you go to my website, you put your information in, you get the numbers, and there will be no phone calls after that. It'll be silence. But you'll get a text from me saying, hey, we got your information. Want to see what you thought about the quotes? Let me know.
Man, you use text messaging? That's pretty fancy.
I do. I have everything, man. Facebook Messenger. I just don't use Snapchat because, there's no record of it.
Yeah, that's smart. Cool. Well, we're out of time. Always again, thanks, Daryl. I had a good time, and I look forward to our next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.